Picture this, you're at a dazzling dinner party in a fancy London restaurant, surrounded by laughter, clinking glasses and sparkling champagne. The room glows with elegance, but then a woman in a stunning dress takes a sip from her glass, gasps and collapses dead. Her drink laced with poison. Everyone freezes, the music stops, and whispers of murder ripple through the crowd. Was it an accident, or something far darker? Welcome to the truth Poirot exposed in the treacherous sparkling Cyanide, where Hercule Poirot, the world's sharpest detective, dives into a glamorous world of secrets, betrayal, and cyanide to uncover a killer hiding in plain sight. So, grab a seat, hit that like button, and let's unravel this deadly mystery with Poirot's little grey cells leading the way. The London air carries a crisp autumn chill in 1937. Weaving through the elegant streets as Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably twirled, sits in his cosy flat, sipping coffee and reading a letter that sets his heart racing. Captain Hastings, his loyal friend, lounges by the fire, flipping through a newspaper with a frown. Poirot, it's all gloom, murders and scandals everywhere. Hastings grumbles, tossing the paper aside. Poirot's grey eyes glint, his tone calm but sharp as a blade. Mon ami, the world is full of shadows, but Hercule Poirot brings light. This letter, it speaks of such a shadow. The letter from George Barton, a wealthy businessman, begs Poirot to investigate the death of his wife, Rosemary, who collapsed at a dinner party a year ago, her champagne laced with cyanide. The police called it suicide. George writes, but I know it was murder. Hastings' eyes widen. Cyanide in champagne, that's cold. Poirot, the city hums with secrets, and Poirot is ready to dive into the treacherous sparkle of this mystery. Poirot begins by rereading George's letter, its words heavy with grief and suspicion. Rosemary was happy, George writes, full of life, not the type to end it all. The dinner was at the luxurious Luxembourg Restaurant, attended by Rosemary's sister Iris, her husband Anthony Browne, a politician Stephen Farraday, and his wife Lady Alexandra, George's secretary Ruth Lessing, and a friend Victor Drake. One of them poisoned her, George insists, and I fear they'll strike again. Poirot's fingers tap the letter, his mind racing. Cyanide is quick, Watson pardon, Hastings but not subtle. The killer wanted a death scene. Hastings looks grim, a public murder. That's bold. Poirot nods, recalling the case's details from old papers. Rosemary, a vibrant heiress, died mid-toast, her glass sparkling with cyanide. Poirot meets George at a quiet cafe, its air thick with coffee and tension. George, a broad man with tired eyes, grips his hat nervously. Mr. Poirot, Rosemary's death haunts me, he says, his voice low. The police found no proof, but I found this. He hands Poirot a small note tucked in Rosemary's diary. Reading, beware the shadow at the table. The handwriting is shaky, unsigned. Poirot's eyes narrow. This is no suicide note, Monsieur Barton. It's a warning. George nods, explaining the dinner's guests. Iris, young and naive Anthony. A charming but mysterious American, Stephen. A polished politician, Alexandra, his cold. Elegant wife, Ruth, loyal but reserved, and Victor, a shady drifter. One of them hated her, George says, but who? Poirot examines the note. It's ink-smudged but deliberate. The shadow suggests betrayal, mon ami, he murmurs, pocketing it. He asks George about Rosemary's life, her wealth, her charm, her rumoured affairs. She was lively. George admits maybe too lively for some. Poirot suspects jealousy or greed as motives, given Rosemary's fortune now passed to Iris. Iris is in danger. George adds, I feel it. Poirot's mind races, piecing together the dinner, a crowded restaurant, a public toast, a glass. No one else touched. The cyanide was in her champagne, Poirot says, placed by someone close. Hastings shudders. Right under everyone's noses. That's chilling. Poirot visits the Luxembourg Restaurant, its opulent dining room, gleaming with crystal chandeliers. The manager, Mr. Dubois, recalls the night vividly. Mrs. Barton was radiant, he says. Until she fell. We thought it was a heart attack, but the police found cyanide. Poirot inspects the private dining room, noting the tables lay out Rosemary's. Seat by a window, her glass isolated. The killer knew her habits, Poirot murmurs. Finding a faint scratch on the table near her place, as if her glass was swapped. A clever trick, he tells Hastings, but not invisible. Dubois mentions a waiter, Pierre, who served the champagne but left the job soon after. Suspicious, none, Poirot says, his eyes gleaming. Back at the flat, Poirot sketches. The table seating. George beside Rosemary, Iris, and Anthony opposite. Stephen and Alexandra nearby, Ruth and Victor at the ends. The killer was at that table, Poirot says, or used Pierre. Hastings looks puzzled. But how'd they slip in the cyanide? Everyone was watching. Poirot's smile is faint. Distraction. Mon ami, a toast, a laugh, a turned head. The moment was enough. He suspects Pierre was bribed or coerced, given his sudden departure. Poirot wires Inspector Japp at Scotland Yard, asking for Pierre's whereabouts and the guests' backgrounds. We dig into their secrets, he says, and the shadow will appear. A telegram from Japp arrives, confirming Pierre's last known address, a cheap boarding house in Soho. We find him tomorrow, Poirot tells Hastings, but first we watch Iris. George mentioned Iris lives in their Mayfair home, now heiress to Rosemary's fortune. If Rosemary was murdered, Poirot says Iris is the next target. The fog outside thickens, mirroring the case's shadows. Poirot's little grey cells hum, ready to unravel the truth behind the sparkling cyanide. We're just sipping the first clues of this deadly mystery, with Poirot sniffing out murder in Rosemary's glittering glass. Who's the shadow at the table? Is Iris next? Stick with us for Chapter 2, where Poirot tracks Pierre and digs into the guests' dark secrets. If you're hooked on this glamorous whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Who do you suspect? Let's solve this with Poirot. The London fog curls like a sinister veil, wrapping the narrow streets of Soho in a damp chill as Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably twirled, navigates the bustling crowds with Captain Hastings at his side. It's a crisp autumn evening in 1937, and the mystery of Rosemary Barton's cyanide-laced champagne at the Luxembourg Restaurant has set. Poirot's little grey cells ablaze. The note from Rosemary's diary, beware the shadow at the table, and George Barton's plea for justice point to murder, not suicide. And Poirot suspects the killer lurks among the dinner party guests. Iris, Marle, Anthony Browne, Stephen, Farraday, Lady Alexandra, Ruth Lessing, or Victor Drake. Poirot. This case is like finding a needle in a haystack, Hastings says, dodging a street vendor. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp. Mon ami, the needle is there, and Hercule Poirot will find it tonight. We hunt the waiter Pierre in Soho and uncover the secrets of that fatal night. The clues, the note, the tables, scratch, Pierre's sudden departure, and the guests' hidden motives hint at a deadly plot. The city pulses with danger, and Poirot is ready to chase the shadows. Poirot begins by reviewing the case, clutching George's letter and the diary. Note. The scratch on the table suggests a glass was swapped. He murmurs, his fingers tapping his cane. Pierre, the waiter, served the champagne. His exit is no coincidence. Hastings frowns. His face tense. A waiter poisoning a guest. That's bold, Poirot. Poirot nods, his mind racing. Bold, yes, but likely hired. Someone at that table used him. He recalls the dinner's layout. Rosemary's glass, isolated by the window, untouched by others during the toast. The note's warning, shadow at the table, suggests one of the guests betrayed her. We find Pierre, Poirot says, and we find the hand behind him. They reach the Soho boarding house, a grimy building with peeling paint, where Inspector Japp's telegram placed Pierre. The landlady, a stout woman with suspicious eyes, confirms Pierre's room but says he's out. He's jumpy, she mutters, always looking over his shoulder. Poirot's eyes narrow. A guilty conscience, perhaps. He and Hastings wait in a dim alley across the street, the fog hiding their figures. Hastings grips his coat, uneasy. What if Pierre's armed? Poirot's smile is faint. Armed or not, mon ami. He's a link to the truth. They spot a thin man with nervous eyes Pierre slipping into the boarding house, clutching a small bag. Poirot knocks, his voice polite but firm. Monsieur Pierre, a word. S'il vous plaît. Pierre freezes, his face pale, then tries to bolt, but Hastings blocks the door. You served champagne at the Luxembourg, Poirot says, his tone sharp. Rosemary Barton died. What do you know? Pierre trembles, stammering. I just poured the drinks. Poirot notices a faint cyanide smell on Pierre's bag, faint, but unmistakable. You carried poison, non? Poirot presses, holding up the diary note. Pierre cracks, his voice low. A man paid me, gave me a vial to slip into her glass during the toast. I didn't know it was cyanide. Hastings' jaw drops. Who paid you? Pierre shakes his head. He didn't say his name tall. Dark hair, American accent. Poirot's mind races Anthony Browne, Rosemary's husband. Fits the description. Monsieur Browne, perhaps, he murmurs, but he's cautious. Describe this man exactly. Pierre stammers, mentioning a scar on the man's hand. Not something George mentioned about Anthony. A clue, mon ami, Poirot tells Hastings. Pocketing Pierre's bag for Japp to analyze, they leave Pierre with a warning to stay put, knowing Lestrade's men will watch him. Back in the cab, Hastings looks puzzled. Anthony, or someone posing as him? Poirot's eyes gleam. A shadow, Hastings, hiding among friends. We must probe the guests. Poirot visits Iris Marle at the Barton home in Mayfair. A grand house filled with grief. Iris, a young woman with wide eyes, clutches a photo of Rosemary. She was my sister, Iris says, her voice soft. She wouldn't kill herself. Poirot asks about the dinner, noting Iris's nervousness when mentioning Anthony. He loved Rosemary, Iris says, but her hands fidget. Poirot observes a letter on the table, addressed to Iris, with a faint scar-like mark on the envelope, as if pressed by a scarred hand. Curious, he murmurs, not mentioning it yet. He asks about the other guests, Stephen's ambition, Alexandra's coldness, Ruth's loyalty, Victor's shadiness. Any enemies, he asks. Iris hesitates. Rosemary had admirers. It caused tension. Poirot leaves, his mind buzzing. The scar points to Pierre's mystery man, but Anthony's charm hides secrets. He meets Japp at Scotland Yard, sharing Pierre's confession. A scarred hand, eh? Japp says, flipping through files. Anthony Browne's clean, but Victor. Drake's got a dodgy past, petty theft, scams. Poirot nods. Suspecting Victor's drifter lifestyle fits the courier role. We watch them all. He says that Victor first. Japp agrees to tail Victor, while Poirot plans to observe Anthony at a club where he's known to frequent. The shadow is close. Poirot tells Hastings and we'll catch it. Back at the flat, Poirot sketches the dinner table again, marking each guest's position. The killer used the toast's chaos, he says. Noting the scratcher's position near Rosemary's glass, Pierre swapped it, but who gave the order? Hastings looks grim. Victor sounds like trouble, but Stephen's ambition worries me. Poirot's smile is faint. All have motives, mon ami jealousy, greed, revenge. We dig deeper. A telegram from Jap arrives. Victor was seen in Soho, near Pierre's boarding house. The night of the murder. Our shadow moves. Poirot murmurs his little grey. Cells humming. The fog outside thickens, wrapping London in mystery. Poirot knows the killer is among the guests, and Pierre's scarred man is the key to unmasking them. The sparkling cyanide's truth is closer, but danger looms. We're diving deeper into the poisonous web of the Luxembourg dinner, with Poirot sniffing out Pierre's confession and a scarred stranger. Is Victor the shadow, or does Anthony hide? A darker side. Stick with us for Chapter 3, where Poirot stalks Victor and uncovers secrets that bring the killer into focus. If you're hooked on this deadly whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe and drop a comment below who's your top suspect. Let's solve this with Poirot. The London fog slinks through Soho's narrow alleys, casting a ghostly glow over flickering street lamps as Hercule Poirot, his moustache perfectly twirled, moves with purpose alongside Captain Hastings. It's a chilly autumn night in 1937, and the mystery of Rosemary Barton's cyanide-laced champagne at the Luxembourg Restaurant has grown darker with Pierre the waiter's confession. A scarred man with an American accent paid him to poison Rosemary's glass. Inspector Japp's telegram linking the shady Victor Drake to Soho on the night of the murder has set Poirot's little grey cells buzzing. Poirot, Victor's a drifter, sounds like our man. Hastings says, his voice low as they near. A seedy tavern. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp. Mon ami. Victor Drake is a shadow, but Hercule Poirot will shine light on him. Tonight, we follow his trail and uncover his secrets. The clues the diary notes shadow. At the table scratch Pierre's scarred man, and Victor's Soho connection point to a killer among the dinner guests. The city hums with danger, and Poirot is ready to close in. Poirot begins by reviewing Pierre's confession, the faint cyanide smell on his bag still vivid in his mind. Victor was in Soho that night. He murmurs, clutching Japp's telegram. A man with a scarred hand, perhaps. Hastings frowns, gripping his coat. Victor's a crook, petty theft, scams. Poison's a big step, though. Poirot nods, his mind racing. A step, yes, but greed or revenge can push a man far. He recalls the dinner guests. Iris, the naive heiress. Anthony, the charming American. Stephen, the ambitious politician. Alexandra, his icy wife, Ruth. The loyal secretary, and Victor, the drifter with a shady past. The diary note, beware the shadow at the table, suggests a betrayer close. To Rosemary, Victor's motive is key, Poirot says, and we find it tonight. They enter the tavern, it's air thick with smoke and loud voices. Japp, waiting in a corner, nods grimly. Victor's a regular here. He whispers, pointing to a lanky man with sharp features and restless eyes. Victor Drake sipping a drink. Alone. Poirot approaches, his voice polite but firm. Monsieur Drake. A word about the Luxembourg dinner. Victor's eyes dart, his hand scarred across the knuckles tightening on his glass. Don't know it, he snaps, but his voice shakes. Poirot notices a crumpled letter in Victor's pocket, its edge showing a familiar wax seal. You were in Soho the night Rosemary died, Poirot says, his tone sharp, and a man with a scarred hand paid for poison. Victor bolts, shoving a chair, but Japp grabs him, pinning him to the wall. In a back room, Victor sweats, his defiance crumbling. I didn't kill her, he cries. Poirot holds up the letter. Its seal matching one found in Rosemary's diary. You knew her secrets. Non-Victor admits he was Rosemary's cousin, cut off from her wealth after a falling out. She flaunted her money. He snarls, but I only took cash to leave town. Poirot presses, noting the scar. You paid Pierre. Victor shakes his head. I was here. But someone borrowed my name, said they'd pay big. Hastings. Jaw drops. Borrowed your name, who? Victor mumbles about a man in a dark coat, American accent. No name given. Poirot's eyes narrow. Anthony Browne, perhaps. Poirot searches Victor's pockets, finding a pawn ticket for a watch, dated the murder night. You sold something to fund your escape, he murmurs, pocketing the ticket. Japp agrees to hold Victor for questioning, but Poirot suspects he's a pawn, not the killer. The scarred hand is our link. He tells Hastings, but Anthony's. Charm hides much. They visit the pawn shop, finding a cheap watch with a scratched initial R. Rosemary's, Poirot says, his heart racing. Victor stole it, but someone used him. The shopkeeper recalls Victor with a tall man, dark-haired. American-sounding, who paid for the ticket. Our shadow moves closer, Poirot murmurs. Back at the flat, Poirot sketches the dinner table, marking Victor's seat far from Rosemary's glass. He didn't swap it, he says, but he knows the scarred man. Hastings looks puzzled. Anthony again, his accent fits. Poirot nods, cautious. Anthony or someone posing as him. We must watch him. He wires Japp to check Anthony's past, focusing on any scars or Soho ties. A telegram arrives. Anthony Browne, a businessman, has no criminal record, but his American background is vague. A mystery man, Poirot says, and mysteries hide truths. He plans to observe Anthony at a Mayfair club, where Iris mentioned. He spends evenings. Poirot meets Iris again, noting her nervousness around Anthony's name. He was devoted to Rosemary, she says, but her eyes avoid Poirot's. A photo on the mantel shows Rosemary with a man, his hand scarred, partially hidden. Monsieur Browne, Poirot asks. Iris hesitates, then nods. He loved her, but they fought sometimes. Poirot's mind buzzes jealousy, perhaps as a motive. The fog outside thickens, mirroring the case's shadows. Poirot knows Victor's trail has led to Anthony, but the scarred man's identity remains elusive. We're chasing shadows through Soho's grimy streets, with Poirot pinning Victor but finding a deeper mystery in Anthony's scarred hand. Is Anthony the killer, or is someone using his name? Stick with us for Chapter 4, where Poirot stalks Anthony and uncovers secrets that tighten the noose. If you're hooked on this poisonous puzzle, smash that like button, subscribe and drop a comment below. Is Anthony guilty? Let's solve this with Poirot. The London fog dances under the gaslights of Mayfair, its damp fingers brushing the elegant facades as Hercule Poirot, his moustache gleaming, steps into a posh club, with Captain Hastings trailing nervously. It's a crisp autumn evening in 1937, and the mystery of Rosemary Barton's cyanide poisoning at the Luxembourg Restaurant has grown more tangled with Victor Drake's confession he was a pawn, not the killer, paid by a scarred man with an American accent, possibly Anthony Browne. The pawned watch with Rosemary's initial and Iris Marle's hesitation about Anthony have set Poirot's little grey cells on fire. Poirot, Anthony's too smooth to be a murderer, Hastings says, adjusting his tie as they enter the clubs. Smoky haze. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp. Mon ami, charm is a mask, and Hercule Poirot will peel it off. Tonight, we unmask Anthony Browne. The clue's the diary note. The tables scratch, Pierre's scarred man. Victor's Soho connection, the pawned watch. And Anthony's vague past point to a killer hiding behind a smile. The club hums with secrets, and Poirot is ready to expose the charmer's truth. Poirot begins by reviewing Victor's story, the scarred man's American accent echoing in his mind. Anthony fits, he murmurs, clutching the pawn ticket. But we need proof. Hastings frowns, scanning the club's crowd of dapper men and elegant women. He's popular here, how do we catch him? Poirot nods, his mind racing. We observe, mon ami. A killer betrays himself in small ways. He recalls the dinner. Anthony sat opposite Rosemary, close enough to notice her glass, perhaps to signal Pierre during the toast. The diary note, shadow, at the table, suggests a personal betrayal, and Iris's nervousness hints at Anthony's darker side. Jealousy or greed, Poirot says, drives our shadow. They spot Anthony at a card table. His dark hair slicked back, his smile charming as he laughs with club patrons. Poirot approaches, his voice polite. Monsieur Browne, a word about. Rosemary Barton, s'il vous plaît. Anthony's smile falters, his hand scarred faintly across the knuckles pausing on a card. Rosemary, a tragedy, he says, his American accent smooth but guarded. Poirot notices a gold cigarette case in Anthony's pocket, engraved with an Ara gift from her. None? Poirot asks, pointing to it. Anthony's eyes narrow. Just a trinket, he says, but his fingers twitch. Poirot presses, mentioning. The pawned watch. You were in Soho, perhaps, the night she died. Anthony laughs, too loud. Soho? Not my scene, Mr. Poirot. Hastings distracts Anthony with talk of cards, allowing Poirot to glance at a nearby coat rack, where Anthony's overcoat hangs. A quick search reveals a folded note, its handwriting matching the diary's warning, keep her quiet. Poirot's heart races, a link he murmurs, pocketing it. Anthony notices his voice sharp, snooping. Mr. Poirot. He stands, but Poirot's cane taps his chair. Sit, monsieur. We talk of cyanide. Anthony's charm cracks, his eyes darting. I loved Rosemary, he says, but she had enemies. Poirot nods, noting Anthony's scar matches Pierre's description. Enemies or lovers, he asks. His tone sharp. Poirot meets Inspector Japp at Scotland Yard, sharing the note and cigarette case. Anthony's our man, Japp says, but Poirot hesitates. He's involved, but too obvious. Japp digs into Anthony's past, finding he's a businessman with murky American ties, once linked to a gambling ring. A charmer with a dark side, Poirot murmurs. He visits Iris, again, showing her the cigarette case. Rosemary gave this to Anthony, Iris admits, her voice shaky. They fought before she died about money. Poirot's eyes narrow. Money or another woman? Iris blushes, mentioning Alexandra Faraday's closeness to Rosemary. They were friends, but tense. Poirot returns to the flat, sketching the dinner table again. Anthony's scar fits, but the note suggests a woman. He says. Hastings looks confused. Alexandra? She's so proper. Poirot's smile is faint. Proper masks passion, mon ami. He suspects Anthony and Alexandra had motives jealousy, perhaps, or a shared secret. A telegram from Japp arrives. Anthony was seen with Alexandra in Soho, near Pierre's boarding house days before the murder. They're linked, Poirot says, his mind buzzing. He plans to confront Alexandra at her Mayfair home, testing her composure. The shadow hides in plain sight. He tells Hastings. The fog outside thickens, wrapping London in a sinister cloak. Poirot knows Anthony's charm conceals secrets, but Alexandra's role is emerging. The sparkling cyanide's truth is closer, but the killer's mask is still on. We're peeling back Anthony's charm, with Poirot finding a damning note and a scarred hand. Is Anthony the killer, or is Alexandra hiding more? Stick with us for Chapter 5, where Poirot faces Alexandra and tightens the net around the shadow. If you're hooked on this deadly whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Is Alexandra guilty? Let's solve this with Poirot. The London fog swirls like a velvet curtain, casting a hush over Mayfair's grand homes as Hercule Poirot, his moustache gleaming under a street lamp, approaches the elegant townhouse of Stephen and Lady Alexandra Farraday. It's a tense autumn. Evening in 1937, and the mystery of Rosemary Barton's cyanide poisoning at the Luxembourg Restaurant has grown more sinister, with Anthony Browne's scarred hand and a note, "Keep her quiet," linking him to the crime. Inspector Japp's revelation that Anthony and Alexandra were seen together in Soho near the murder night has set Poirot's little grey cells ablaze. Poirot: "Alexandra's a lady, could she really be a killer?" Captain Hastings asks, his voice low as they climb the steps. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp. "Mon ami, a lady's grace can hide a deadly heart. Tonight, we uncover Alexandra's secret and close in on the shadow. The clue's the diary note. The table scratch, Pierre's scarred man, Victor's pawned watch, Anthony's cigarette case. The Soho connection and Alexandra's tension with Rosemary point to a web of betrayal. The city pulses with secrets, and Poirot is ready to unravel the lady's mask. Poirot begins by reviewing the note found in Anthony's coat, its handwriting matching Rosemary's diary warning. "Keep her quiet," he murmurs, his fingers tapping. His cane. Alexandra knew Rosemary's secrets, perhaps too many. Hastings frowns, adjusting his hat. "She's so poised, Poirot." "A murderer?" Poirot nods, his mind racing. "Poise is a shield, mon ami." Alexandra sat near Rosemary, close to the glass. He recalls Iris's hint of tension between Alexandra and Rosemary, possibly over Anthony or Rosemary's wealth. The diary's shadow at the table suggests a personal motive, jealousy, perhaps, or fear of exposure. "We test her," Poirot says, "and watch her crack." They're welcomed into the Farraday home, its opulent drawing room gleaming with chandeliers. Alexandra, tall and elegant, greets them coolly, her blonde hair perfect, her eyes guarded. "Mr. Poirot, Dr. Watson pardon, Captain Hastings, what brings you?" she asks. Her voice smooth but tense. Poirot smiles, his tone polite. "Madam, we speak of Rosemary Barton's sad end. You were her friend, non?" Alexandra's fingers tighten on her teacup, her smile thin. "A dear friend, yes. Her death was tragic." Poirot shows the cigarette case, mentioning Anthony. "He loved her, yet you were seen with him in Soho." Alexandra's eyes flash. Soho, preposterous. But her hand trembles, spilling tea. Poirot presses, his questions gentle but sharp. Rosemary had admirers, perhaps too close to Monsieur Farraday. Alexandra's face pales, her composure slipping. Stephen admired her, but it was nothing. She snaps. Hastings distracts her with talk of politics, allowing Poirot to notice a locked diary on a side table. Its cover embossed with our Rosemary's. He asks, pointing. Alexandra flinches. "A gift she gave me," she says, but her voice shakes. Poirot mentions the note, "Keep her quiet," and Alexandra stands furious. "You accuse me?" She cries, but her eyes dart to the diary. Poirot's heart races. A secret, madam, that Rosemary knew. Poirot meets Stephen Farraday. Who joins them, his politician's smile polished but strained. Rosemary's death was suicide. Stephen says, but his fingers fidget. Poirot asks about the dinner, noting Stephen's seat beside Rosemary. "You saw her glass, non?" Stephen nods, uneasy. Everyone did. Poirot suspects Stephen and Alexandra hid an affair, perhaps with Rosemary as a rival. He wires Japp to search Alexandra's past, focusing on her ties to Anthony. A telegram arrives. Alexandra visited Soho with Anthony, and her diary matches Rosemary's handwriting. She wrote the note, Poirot murmurs, to silence a threat. Poirot confronts Alexandra alone, showing the note. "You warned Rosemary to stay quiet, non, about your affair with Anthony." Alexandra collapses into a chair, sobbing. She was going to tell Stephen, she admits. "I loved Anthony, but I didn't kill her." Poirot's eyes narrow. Then who used the cyanide? Alexandra hesitates, mentioning Ruth Lessing's jealousy of Rosemary's hold over George. Ruth was always watching, she says. Poirot's mind buzzes Ruth, the loyal secretary. Sat near the glass too. Another shadow, he tells Hastings. Back at the flat, Poirot sketches the table again, marking Ruth's position. Alexandra's affair is motive, but Ruth's loyalty hides more, he says. Hastings looks stunned. Ruth, she's so quiet. Poirot's smile is grim. Quiet, mon ami, is dangerous. A telegram from Jap confirms Ruth's access to cyanide through a chemist friend. We confront her next, Poirot says, the fog outside mirroring the case's darkness. The sparkling cyanide's truth is near, but the killer remains hidden. We've unmasked Alexandra's secret, with Poirot finding her affair and Ruth's new shadow. Is Ruth the killer, or is Anthony still the key? Stick with us for Chapter 6, where Poirot corners Ruth and tightens the trap. If you're hooked on this glamorous whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Is Ruth guilty? Let's solve this with Poirot. The London fog wraps Mayfair's elegant streets in a ghostly shroud, its doubt chill seeping into the Grand Barton residence as Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably twirled, steps inside with Captain Hastings trailing nervously. It's a tense autumn evening in 1937, and the mystery of Rosemary Barton's cyanide-laced champagne at the Luxembourg Restaurant has grown darker with Lady Alexandra Faraday's confession of an affair with Anthony, Browne, and a new suspect emerging, Ruth Lessing, George Barton's loyal secretary, who had access to cyanide through a chemist friend. Alexandra's note, "Keep her quiet," and her hint at Ruth's jealousy have set Poirot's little grey cells ablaze. Poirot, Ruth's so devoted to George, could she really poison his wife? Hastings asks. His voice low as they wait. In the drawing room, Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a blade. Mon ami, loyalty can hide a dangerous heart, and Hercule Poirot will uncover it. Tonight, we face Ruth Lessing and peel back her shadow. The clues: the diary note, the table scratch, Pierre's scarred man, Victor's pawned watch, Anthony's cigarette case, Alexandra's affair, and Ruth's cyanide connection point to a killer among the dinner guests. The city pulses with secrets, and Poirot is ready to expose the loyal shadow's truth. Poirot begins by reviewing Alexandra's words, her mention of Ruth's jealousy over Rosemary's hold on George ringing in his mind. Ruth sat near Rosemary's glass, he murmurs, clutching the note found in Anthony's coat. She could have signaled Pierre. Hastings frowns, adjusting his tie. Ruth, she's so quiet. Poirot not the murdering type. Poirot nods, his mind racing. Quiet, mon ami, is the perfect mask for murder. Ruth's devotion to George may hide obsession. He recalls the dinner's layout, Ruth at the table's end, close enough to watch Rosemary's glass during the toast. The diary's warning, shadow at the table, suggests a betrayer with a personal stake. And Ruth's access to cyanide, confirmed by Jap, makes her a prime suspect. We confront her gently, Poirot says, and watch her break. Ruth enters the drawing room, her plain dress and neat bun masking a nervous energy. Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings. What's this about? She asks, her voice steady but her hands clasped tightly. Poirot smiles, his tone polite. Mademoiselle Lessing. We speak of Rosemary Barton's tragic end. You were close to her, non? Ruth nods, her eyes guarded. I worked for George, she was kind. Poirot shows the cigarette case, mentioning Anthony's affair with Alexandra. You knew Rosemary's secrets, perhaps her admirers. Ruth's lips tighten, her fingers twitching. She had many, she says, but I stayed out of it. Poirot notices a small notebook in her handbag, its edge showing a familiar waxed seal, the lion ankle crest from Holt's network. A red herring. From another case, but a clue to Ruth's meticulous nature. Poirot presses his questions sharp but gentle. You had access to cyanide, mademoiselle, through a chemist friend, and you sat near Rosemary's glass. Ruth's face pales, her voice rising. You accuse me? I'd never hurt her. Hastings distracts her with talk of George's business, allowing Poirot to glance at the notebook. Its pages listing Rosemary's appointments, some with Anthony, others with Stephen Farraday. You watched her closely, Poirot says, pointing. To the notebook, Ruth snatches it back, her eyes flashing. I protected George. Rosemary was reckless she hurt him. Poirot's heart races. Hurt him with affairs. Or with her fortune. Ruth freezes, her silence damning. Poirot meets Inspector Japp at Scotland Yard, sharing Ruth's reaction and the notebook. She's hiding something, Japp says, flipping through his files. Her chemist friend confirmed she asked for cyanide for pest control weeks before the murder. Poirot's eyes narrow. Pest control or a rival? He suspects Ruth's loyalty to George turned to obsession, seeing Rosemary as a threat. Japp digs deeper, finding Ruth's bank records show large payments to an unknown account, dated after Rosemary's death. Bribes, perhaps, Poirot murmurs, or blackmail. He plans to tail Ruth, hoping she'll lead them to the scarred man or another clue. She's not the killer, Poirot says, but she knows him. Poirot and Hastings follow Ruth to a quiet cafe where she meets a man tall, dark-haired, with a scarred hand. Anthony Browne, Hastings whispers, but Poirot shakes his head. Look closer, mon ami. The man's scar is fresher than Anthony's, and his accent, overheard faintly, lacks Anthony's polished tone. Poirot recognizes him from Japp's. Files Paul Bennett, a small-time crook linked to Victor Drake. Another pawn, Poirot murmurs. Noting Bennett's nervous glance at Ruth, they overhear Ruth say, It's done, she's gone. Poirot's mind buzzes Ruth hired Bennett, not Anthony, to bribe Pierre. The fog outside thickens, hiding their figures as they watch. Back at the flat, Poirot sketches the dinner table, marking Ruth's position near Rosemary. She planned it, he says, but used Bennett to distance herself. Hastings looks, stunned. Ruth behind it all. But why? Poirot's smile is grim. Love, mon homme twisted into hate. Ruth loved George and Rosemary stood in her way. A telegram from Japp arrives. Bennett's been spotted in Soho near Pierre's boarding house. We catch him next, Poirot says, his little grey cells humming. The sparkling cyanide's truth is near, but the killer's shadow still looms. We're tightening the net around Ruth's secrets, with Poirot uncovering her jealousy and a new player. Paul Bennett. Is Ruth the mastermind, or is someone else pulling strings? Stick with us for Chapter 7, where Poirot chases Bennett and closes in on the killer's face. If you're hooked on this glamorous whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe and drop. A comment below is Ruth the killer. Let's solve this with Poirot. The London fog weaves a thick curtain over Soho's gritty streets, its damp chill clinging to the flickering gaslights as Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably twirled, moves swiftly with Captain Hastings at his side. It's a tense autumn night in 1937, and the mystery of Rosemary Barton's cyanide-laced champagne at the Luxembourg Restaurant has taken a darker turn with Ruth Lessing's jealousy and her connection to Paul Bennett, a small-time crook with a scarred hand who matches. Pierre the waiter's description of the man who paid for the poison. Poirot's little grey cells are ablaze. After overhearing Ruth's cryptic words to Bennett, it's done, she's gone, in a Soho cafe. Poirot. This Bennett fellow's our killer, isn't he? Hastings whispers, his voice tight. As they approach a seedy boarding house, Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a blade. Mon ami, Bennett is a pawn, but Hercule Poirot will find the hand moving him. Tonight, we chase the scarred man and tighten the net. The clues the diary notes shadow at the table. The tables scratch Pierre's confession, Victor's pawned watch, Anthony's cigarette case, Alexandra's affair, Ruth's cyanide access, and Bennet's scarred hand point to a killer hiding among the dinner guests. The city hums with danger, and Poirot is ready to follow the trail. Poirot begins by reviewing Ruth's meeting with Bennet, her words echoing in his mind. She hired him, he murmurs, clutching the notebook from Ruth's handbag, its pages, listing Rosemary's meetings with Anthony and Stephen. But is she the mastermind? Hastings frowns, gripping his coat against the fog. Ruth's obsessed with George, but Bennet's the one with the poison. Poirot nods, his mind racing. Bennet delivered the cyanide to Pierre, but someone higher planned it. He recalls the dinner's layout, Ruth at the tables, and near Rosemary's glass and Bennet's fresh scar, unlike Anthony's older one, ruling Anthony out as Pierre's contact. The diary note, shadow at the table, suggests a betrayal with a personal motive, and Ruth's jealousy points to her, but Bennet's role is key. We find him, Poirot says, and we find the truth. They reach the boarding house. Its grimy windows dark except for a single flicker. Inspector Japp, waiting in the shadows, confirms Bennet's room. He's a slippery one, Japp whispers, his face grim, known for scams linked to Victor Drake. Poirot's eyes narrow. A network of shadows, they knock, and Bennet, a tall man with dark hair and a fresh scar across his knuckles, opens the door, his eyes darting. "What's this?" he snaps, his rough American accent clear. Poirot smiles, his tone polite but firm. "Monsieur Bennet, we speak of Rosemary Barton's death. You paid Pierre for cyanide, non?" Bennet's face pales and he tries to slam the door, but Hastings wedges his foot in. Pushing it open in the cramped room, Bennet sweats, his defiance crumbling. "I didn't kill nobody," he cries, his hands shaking. Poirot holds up the notebook, mentioning Ruth's meeting. "You worked for Mademoiselle Lessing, delivering poison." Bennet shakes his head. "She paid me to bribe the waiter. Said it was for a prank, nothing about murder." Poirot notices a small vial in Bennet's pocket, empty but smelling, faintly of cyanide. A prank with poison. Poirot asks, his tone sharp. Bennet slumps, admitting Ruth gave him the vial, claiming it was harmless. She said Rosemary was trouble. He mumbles, needed to be taught a lesson. Hastings' jaw drops. "A lesson? She's dead." Poirot searches Bennet's room, finding a letter from Ruth. Its handwriting matching the keep her quiet. Note, "You were her tool," Poirot says, pocketing it. "Who else?" Bennet insists it was just Ruth, but mentions a meeting in Soho with a posh man who watched from a distance. Didn't give his name tall, slick, politician type, Bennet says. Poirot's mind races Stephen Farraday, the ambitious politician, fits the description. Another shadow, he murmurs, noting Stephen's seat near Rosemary's glass. Japp cuffs Bennet, promising to hold him for questioning. "He's small fry," Japp says, but Poirot shakes his head. Small, but crucial. Poirot meets George Barton at his Mayfair home, showing the letter. "Ruth betrayed you," he says gently. George's face falls, his voice hoarse. "Ruth, she loved me." Poirot nods, explaining her obsession turned deadly. "She saw Rosemary as a rival, monsieur." George recalls Ruth's late nights, her secretive calls. "I trusted her," he says, his eyes wet. Poirot asks about Stephen, noting his ambition. He admired Rosemary. George admits, but he's married. Poirot's eyes gleam. Marriage does not stop desire, non? A telegram from Japp arrives. Stephen was seen in Soho with Ruth days before the murder. The net tightens. Poirot tells Hastings. Back at the flat, Poirot sketches the dinner table. Marking Stephen's position beside Rosemary, he could have signalled Pierre, he says, or guided Ruth. Hastings looks stunned. Stephen and Ruth together, that's dark. Poirot's smile is grim, dark, mon but human. Ambition and love twist hearts. He plans to confront Stephen at his political office, testing his composure. The fog outside thickens, mirroring the case's shadows. Poirot knows Ruth and Bennet are pieces of the puzzle, but Stephen's role could be the key to the sparkling Cyanide's truth. We're chasing the scarred man's trail through Soho, with Poirot catching Bennet and pointing the finger at Ruth. And Stephen, is Stephen the mastermind, or is Ruth alone? Stick with us for Chapter 8, where Poirot faces Stephen and uncovers the final shadows. If you're hooked on this glamorous whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe and drop a comment. Below is Stephen the killer. Let's solve this with Poirot. The London fog coils like a serpent around the grand offices of surmise, its damp chill seeping into the polished corridors as Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably twirled, strides forward with Captain Hastings trailing nervously. It's a crisp autumn evening in 1937, and the mystery of Rosemary Barton's cyanide-laced champagne at the Luxembourg Restaurant has grown more sinister with Ruth Lessing's jealousy, and her hiring of Paul Bennet, a scarred crook who bribed. The waiter Pierre. Inspector Japp's report of Stephen Faraday's meetings with Ruth in Soho has set Poirot's little grey cells ablaze, pointing to the ambitious politician as a key player. Poirot, Stephen's a public figure, could he risk murder? Hastings asks, his voice low as they approach Stephen's office. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a blade. Mon ami, ambition is a dangerous mask, and Hercule Poirot will tear it off. Tonight, we face Stephen Faraday and expose his game. The clues the diary notes shadow at the table scratch, Pierre's scarred man, Victor's pawned watch, Anthony's cigarette, case, Alexandra's affair, Ruth's cyanide, and Bennet's role point to a killer among the dinner guests. The city pulses with secrets, and Poirot is ready to unmask the politician. Poirot begins by reviewing Japp's telegram, the details of Stephen's Soho meetings with Ruth burning in his mind. Stephen sat beside Rosemary, he murmurs, clutching. Ruth's letter to Bennet, close enough to signal Pierre. Hastings frowns, adjusting his coat. Stephen, he's all charm and speeches. Poirot nods, his mind racing. Charm hides greed, mon ami. Stephen's ambition and Rosemary's wealth may have clashed. He recalls the dinner's layout, Stephen next to Rosemary, his wife Alexandra across, Ruth at the end. The diary note, shadow at the table, suggests a personal betrayal, and Stephen's political rise could hinge on money or secrets Rosemary held. We test his nerve, Poirot says, and watch him falter. They enter Stephen's office. Its walls lined with books and campaign posters, the air heavy with cigar smoke. Stephen, tall and polished, greets them with a politician's smile. Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings, an honour, he says, his voice smooth but his eyes guarded. Poirot smiles, his tone polite. Monsieur Faraday, we speak of Rosemary Barton's tragic end. You sat beside her, Stephen's smile tightens, his fingers brushing a gold pen. A sad night. He says, she was vibrant, then gone. Poirot shows the cigarette case, mentioning Anthony's affair with Alexandra. Your wife and Rosemary were close, perhaps too close. Stephen's hand pauses, his jaw tight. Alexandra was fond of her, nothing more. Poirot presses, his questions sharp but gentle. You met Ruth Lessing in Soho, monsieur, before the murder. Why? Stephen laughs too loud. Business matters, George's investments. Poirot notices a locked drawer, its key on Stephen's. Chain, engraved with a faint lion ankle crest, like those in Holt's network, a red herring. But a sign of Stephen's secrets. You admired Rosemary, Poirot says. Perhaps her wealth. Stephen's eyes flash. You accuse me? Hastings distracts him with talk of politics, allowing Poirot to glimpse a letter on the desk. Its handwriting matching Ruth's notebook. Meet me must be stopped. Poirot's heart races. Rosemary threatened your career. Non-Stephen stands furious. But his voice shakes. She was reckless flirting, spending, dangerous. Poirot shows the keep her quiet note, linking it to Ruth. You planned. With Mademoiselle Lessing, Stephen denies it, but his fingers tremble. Poirot asks about Soho, mentioning Bennet. I know no such man, Stephen snaps, but his eyes dart to the drawer. Poirot's mind buzzes. Stephen's ambition and Ruth's obsession align, but the scarred man's role is unclear. Japp arrives, summoned by Poirot, and searches the drawer, finding a campaign ledger with payments to Bennet, marked consulting. Consulting for murder. Poirot asks, his tone cold. Stephen cracks, his face pale. I paid Bennet to watch Rosemary, he admits. She was blackmailing me about my finances. Poirot's eyes narrow. Blackmail or an affair? Stephen hesitates, then admits Rosemary knew of his shady campaign funds, threatening to expose him. I didn't kill her. He insists. Ruth suggested handling it. Hastings' jaw drops. Ruth again. Poirot nods, suspecting Stephen funded the plot. But Ruth executed it. Japp holds Stephen for questioning, and Poirot finds a photo in the ledger. Stephen and Rosemary too close at a club. Motive? Poirot murmurs, pocketing it. Poirot meets Iris Marle at the Barton home, showing the photo. Rosemary and Stephen. Iris gasps, her voice shaky. She never said. Poirot asks about Ruth, noting her loyalty to George. She was always there. Iris says, watching Rosemary. Poirot's mind races Ruth's jealousy. Stephen's ambition and Bennet's cyanide form a deadly triangle. A telegram from Japp confirms Stephen's payments to Bennet predate the murder. The net tightens. Poirot tells Hastings, planning to revisit George. The fog outside swirls, hiding the killer's face, but Poirot is close. We're unraveling. Stephen's game, with Poirot exposing his secrets and Ruth's deadly hand. Is Stephen the mastermind, or is Ruth the true shadow? Stick with us for Chapter 9, where Poirot confronts George and digs deeper into the cyanide source. If you're hooked on this glamorous whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Is Stephen guilty? Let's solve this with Poirot. The London fog clings to Mayfair's elegant streets, its ghostly tendrils wrapping the Barton residence as Hercule Poirot, his moustache gleaming under a gas lamp, steps inside with Captain Hastings at his side. It's a chilly autumn night in 1937, and the mystery of Rosemary Barton's cyanide poisoning at the Luxembourg Restaurant has reached a boiling point with Stephen Faraday's confession he paid Paul Bennet to watch Rosemary, fearing her blackmail, while Ruth Lessing's jealousy and cyanide access point to her as the plot's executor. Poirot's little grey cells hum with the weight of the clues. The diary notes shadow at the table. The table scratch Pierre's scarred man, Victor's pawned watch, Anthony's cigarette case, Alexandra's affair, Ruth's notebook, Bennet's roll and Stephen's ledger. Poirot, Ruth and Stephen seem guilty. But what about George? Hastings asks, his voice tense as they wait in the drawing room. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp. Mon ami, a husband's grief can hide secrets, and Hercule Poirot will uncover them. Tonight, we face George Barton and dig into his heart. The city hums with danger, and Poirot is ready to unravel the husband's truth. Poirot begins by reviewing Stephen's confession, the ledger's payments to Bennet burning in his mind. Stephen feared exposure, he murmurs, clutching the photo of Stephen and Rosemary. But George's grief drove this case. Hastings frowns, his hands in his pockets. George, He loved Rosemary. Poirot nods, his mind racing. Love twists into suspicion, mon ami. George's letter begged for justice perhaps too fiercely. He recalls the dinner. George beside Rosemary, his eyes on her glass. His insistence on murder over suicide. The diary note, shadow at the table, could point to George, his grief masking a darker motive. We question him, Poirot says, and watch his pain. George welcomes them, his broad face lined with sorrow. His eyes red from sleepless nights. Mr. Poirot, any news? He asks, his voice hoarse. Poirot smiles, his tone gentle. Monsieur Barton, we speak of Rosemary's end. You sat beside her, non? George nods, gripping a glass of brandy. I saw her fall horrible. Poirot shows the ledger, mentioning Stephen's payments and Ruth's role. You trusted Mademoiselle Lessing, yet she hired a man for cyanide. George's hand shakes, spilling brandy. Ruth, impossible. Poirot notices a small box on the mantel, engraved with Rosemary's initials. Its lock scratched as if forced. You kept her secrets, perhaps, he asks. George's face crumples, his voice breaking. She was unfaithful, I suspected Anthony. Poirot presses, his questions sharp. You wrote to me of murder, not suicide. Why so certain? George hesitates, then pulls a letter from his pocket, its handwriting shaky. George, I'm sorry, I know too much. Poirot's heart races, it matches the diary's warning. Rosemary feared someone, he says. Perhaps you? George denies it, his eyes wet. I loved her, but she was reckless, flirting with Stephen, spending wildly. Hastings distracts. George with talk of business, allowing Poirot to examine the box, finding a vial labeled cyanide. From a chemist Ruth knew. You found this, Poirot says, and suspected Ruth? George admits he found the vial after Rosemary's death, hidden in Ruth's desk. I couldn't believe it, he says, but I hired you to be sure. Poirot's mind buzzes George's. Grief seems genuine, but his silence about the vial is suspicious. He asks about Stephen, noting his ambition. He wanted my support, George says, but Rosemary threatened his campaign. Poirot suspects a triangle, Ruth's jealousy, Stephen's greed and George's pain. Jap arrives, summoned by Poirot, and confirms the vial's source a chemist linked to Ruth. She planned it, Jap says, but Poirot shakes his head. Planned, yes, but with another. Poirot visits Iris Marle, showing the letter. Rosemary feared betrayal, he says. Iris nods, her voice soft. She argued with George about money, about Ruth. Poirot's eyes gleamed. George knew of Ruth's obsession but stayed silent. A telegram from Jap reveals George met Stephen in Soho, discussing business before the murder. George is no innocent, Poirot murmurs, planning to re-examine. The restaurant. The fog outside thickens, hiding the killer's face. But Poirot is close to the truth. We're digging into George's grief, with Poirot finding a cyanide vial and a tangled web of Ruth and Stephen. Is George hiding more, or is he a victim? Stick with us for Chapter 10, where Poirot returns to the Luxembourg and unmasks the killer. If you're hooked on this glamorous whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Is George guilty? Let's solve this with Poirot. The London fog lifts slightly, revealing the glittering facade of the Luxembourg Restaurant as Hercule Poirot. His mustache gleaming under the chandeliers, steps inside with Captain Hastings at his side. It's a crisp autumn evening in 1937, and the mystery of Rosemary Barton's cyanide poisoning is at its climax. George Barton's grief, Ruth Lessing's jealousy, Stephen Faraday's ambition, and the scarred man Paul Bennett's role have woven a deadly web, with a cyanide vial found in George's home pointing to Ruth as the plot's executor. Poirot's little grey cells are ablaze, piecing together the final clues. The diary notes shadow at the table scratch, Pierre's confession, Victor's pawned watch, Anthony's cigarette case, Alexandra's affair, Ruth's notebook, Bennett's roll, Stephen's ledger, and George's letter. Poirot, we've got them all. Ruth's the killer, isn't she? Hastings says, his voice tense as they stand in the dining room, where Rosemary died. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp. Mon ami, the truth sparkles like cyanide in champagne, and Hercule Poirot will reveal it. Tonight, we unmask the killer and end this treacherous game. The city hums with secrets, and Poirot is ready to serve justice. Poirot begins by revisiting the dining room, its opulent table set as it was a year ago. The scratch near Rosemary's seat a silent witness. The glass was swapped here, he murmurs, tracing the mark. Ruth had the means, but who had the will? Hastings frowns, his hands in his pockets. Ruth's jealousy fits, but Stephen's payments to Bennett are damning. Poirot nods, his mind racing. A triangle, Mon ami Ruth, Stephen and George, each with motives. He recalls the dinner. George beside Rosemary, Stephen next, Ruth at the end, all near the fatal glass. The diary note, shadow at the table, suggests a betrayer close to her heart, and George's vial links Ruth to the cyanide, but Poirot suspects a deeper truth. Poirot gathers the guests George, Iris, Anthony, Stephen, Alexandra, and Ruth in the private dining room with Jap present for rests. Amis, Poirot begins, his voice commanding. Rosemary Barton was murdered, and a killer is here. He holds up the diary note, its warning chilling the room. This shadow betrayed her. George grips his chair, his eyes red. Ruth's face is pale, her hands clasped. Stephen shifts nervously, Alexandra's eyes cold. Anthony frowns, his scar visible. Poirot shows the vial label. Cyanide, from Mademoiselle Lessing's chemist. Ruth gasps, I never used it. Poirot smiles faintly. You planned it. None but another struck. Poirot recounts Pierre's confession. The scarred man, Bennett, paid to poison the glass. But Bennett was hired, Poirot says, pointing to Ruth. You loved Monsieur Barton, and Rosemary was a rival. Ruth sobs, admitting her jealousy. I hated her hold on George, but I didn't kill her. Poirot turns to Stephen, showing the ledger. You paid Bennett to watch Rosemary. She knew your shady funds. Stephen pales. I feared her, yes, but murder. Poirot's eyes shift to George. Holding the letter, I'm sorry, I know too much. You found this, Monsieur Barton, and the vial, yet said nothing. George breaks, his voice hoarse. I suspected Ruth, but I couldn't believe it. Poirot's mind races. George's grief hid his knowledge. He reveals the final clue, a waiter's log found by Jap showing George ordered extra champagne. Poured during the toast. You swapped the glass, Poirot says, his tone cold. Rosemary's affairs with Stephen, with Anthony pushed. You to rage. George collapses, sobbing. She betrayed me. I found her letters. Her secrets, I couldn't let her ruin us. He admits slipping the cyanide, using Ruth's vial, framing her jealousy. Ruth gasps, horrified. You used me. Stephen and Alexandra stare, stunned, as Jap cuffs George. Poirot explains George orchestrated the murder, exploiting Ruth's obsession and Stephen's fear. Bennett was a hired pawn, misled by Ruth. Anthony and Alexandra's affair fueled George's rage, but they were innocent of murder. Iris weeps, comforted by Anthony. You saved me. She tells Poirot, her fortune now safe. Jap takes George away, his grief turned to guilt. Back at the flat, Poirot lights a cigarette, his eyes tired. Love and greed, mon ami, poison more than cyanide, he tells Hastings. The fog outside clears and the sparkling truth shines. This is the dazzling end of the cyanide mystery, with Poirot unmasking George as the killer. What did you think of this twisted whodunit? Smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below who was your top suspect. Share this video with friends and let's keep the detective spirit alive with Poirot.